Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Now we're finally covering the rather controversial series of Pokemon, which is Black and White and Best Wishes.
And good luck. This series goes through a semi-reboot as Ash journeys to the Unova region where all new Pokemon are located and he meets his two new friends, Iris and Silent. Not only that, Ash now has to deal with a promoted and more villainous version of Team Rocket.
Which was a terrible idea!
But
before we start on that calamity, be sure to like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell to get updates of future podcasts and more of the Paws videos.
Yes. So we want to say before we start off,
everything is wrong!
Well, I'm going to say, I found lots of good things about this season.
Yes.
But the worst thing was Team Rocket not being Team
Why?
Rocket. That was the worst part of the series.
Yes,
and it just affected the tone overall. But there were very good things about this season that we haven't seen in others.
So why don't we start with that?
Yes. First of all, we did not get an explanation as to why Ash's mom is dating Professor Oak.
At least that's what it looks like.
No, they are. They went on a vacation together with Ash, and Ash runs off. And there's never an explanation as to how they end up together.
No,
Professor Oak said, he goes, oh, we're going on vacation, and he comes in his car, and he picks up the mom and Ash. They're dating.
And here's the thing, it happens so fast. Usually the last few seasons we've seen, when Ash is going to a new region, he goes back home to Pallet Town, sees his mom, eats, gets a new pair of clothes, sees his Pokemon, chases them out, sees Gary or something, and then next episode he's ready to go back to the next one. But here, he gets there and immediately leaves. He just immediately leaves the place.
And they were okay with, well, Ash, you're going to leave now, aren't you? Yeah. And I was like, what?
Like, so you're kind of rushing him out, aren't you?
So that was really strange. Okay, now to the good stuff. He meets two new people. He meets Iris, who is the girl that travels along with him this time. And she's more laid back than Misty, May, and Dawn because she's part of a dragon community, dragon training community. Right? Yeah, like dragon. And she sleeps in the trees, and she likes to be barefoot. And in the beginning, she keeps saying, "You're such a kid, you're such a kid, you're such a kid." But the more you get to know her, you understand that it's not to be offensive, and she really grows to like Ash as well as Silent, and you find out that she's a nice person, and you actually end up liking her as I guess a companion for Ash and Silent. And she's really not a trainer or anything.
No, she's not. She
barely does. She's done 1 or 2 battles.
Yes, actually, she doesn't do any contests, and she doesn't do any gym battles. Only if someone challenges her does she fight. Other than that, she's just traveling. So that was a little different. Like we said, we're not seeing contests anymore.
And you have to point out that she, besides Brock, she's the first brown female companion that has been in the series.
Yes.
And he also meets Silent. And Silent's one of 3 brothers who are Pokemon connoisseurs, which at first was really strange to us, but after we heard it a billion times, we got used to it. Because at first we thought, dude, are you going to eat the Pokemon?
They're like, oh, it's a delicious recipe, a delicious combo. Oh, it's this recipe and the ingredient, if you cook them, Ash is going to, destroy you. What are you doing?
So Silent is the one with green hair, and his Pokemon is also green Pansage. And they first thought that Ash and Iris just came to eat. And Ash was like, no, I'm here to battle. This is what I want to do. So he battles with Ash. Of course, he loses. And then something happens in Silence all of a sudden. Hey, I'm going with you guys.
Right.
And then he ends up with them. And we do understand that some of Brock's traits have been split between Iris and Silent.
Yeah.
Because Silent is the Pokemon connoisseur, and he cooks, not the Pokemon, but he cooks, and he's a train connoisseur, and he's a fishing connoisseur,
and he's a movie connoisseur,
and a Pokemon connoisseur. So we understand he's a man who wears many hats, or a boy who wears many hats. And then he also does not really battle because, again, they only wanted to cook for Ash and Iris. They didn't expect to battle. and now he does a little more. He gets more excited about the things he loves, and you actually grow to like him as well.
Yes.
So those are two good things about this series. You like the companions that he ends up with, and they're really nice, and they have their own personalities and their own reasons for liking them. And each of them does help to make Ash better. Also, that's really good about this is we see a region we've never seen, in Unova region.
Right.
And
they have lots of new trainers that were pretty interesting in their battle techniques, which introduced us to even more new Pokemon, which they started to have more simpler designs, if that's the nicest thing I could say. They started just really doing animal ones. Animals and things you find lying around the house.
Unimaginative names. Like vacuum cleaner Pokemon.
Oh yeah, Shelmet, Vanillite, Scraggy, Lampwick, Litwick, Chandelier.
Like that you guys run out and you just open the book and you start the dictionary and go, hey, let's use that. Yeah, let's use that. That'll make a good Pokemon. It's like, what the hell? It didn't make sense.
Beartic.
Oh,
what?
I'm sorry, we're supposed to be on the good things. Okay, that's it for the good. Oh, and Ash. Ash is still the main character in his series. It hasn't been replaced with someone else.
That's true.
So now we're to what didn't work.
Right.
These generic Pokemon did not work at all.
No.
And we also didn't like that except for Pikachu, all the Pokemon that we knew and loved were gone.
Right. Usually they bring in some older ones in the mix, but this time it was all new Pokemon. You didn't see any from there. In fact, they were so rare that you ended up just Pikachu was the rare one in the region because you didn't see any other Pokemon except for the ones they had there.
Because ooh, when they saw Pikachu.
Right. And then they also had their own a third edition too, like when they have like a Nurse Joy and an Officer Jenny. Now we have a Don Juan trainer with all his brothers and cousins all looking the same. So for some reason we got a male counterpart to that you really didn't need.
And they also decided to change not only the look but the personalities of the Nurse Joys and the Officer Jennies.
Officer Jennies are more strict, although some were, some weren't originally. And Nurse Joys, they're kind of the same. They're just not as, there.
They're not the same. They have changed them, not only in personality, but in looks. I can tell you this, Brock wouldn't be attracted to them.
Right? He's like, oh, how are you?
But you're not a nurse, Jenny. You're not an officer.
Officer Jenny, Nurse Joy.
No,
yeah, gosh.
you're not them.
Yes, that was a little odd. Right? Yeah, it was a little odd because some of them were kind of toned down.
I think the Officer Jennies,
yes,
are tougher.
Yes.
Yeah, they are tougher, and you said more strict.
And the Nurse Joys, they still help their Pokemon, but they didn't have the wide range of personalities that they did before. Like everyone, they all had their own fears, their own dreams, personalities. Some had families, some had talents.
And they don't do as many procedures or treatments.
They just skip.
They go in and go, oh, I'll take your Pokemon, and then they come out the door. Oh, it's done. It's like, well, what did you do?
You just took.
We didn't see anything. We didn't see the equipment. We didn't see the treatment. We didn't see anything. You should just switch out the Pokemon and bring another one back, right? Because that's the way they made it seamless.
Yeah.
And that's part of what you enjoy, seeing the creative ways they treat the Pokemon. So they ran out of creativity on that as well.
And the intro itself is pretty basic. It looks like a screensaver I would have on my computer. It would just, it's not about
the only Pokemon that you ever recognize is Tepig in his little panties. And he was flying around. It's like, oh, that's Tepig.
So like Tepig, we like Sylvie because she's a little arrogant.
At first it was like Snivy,
yes.
And at first we're like, ooh, and she was like, oh, she left her trainer, and then she kept dreaming of Ash and how wonderful he was to his Pokemon. It was so funny, and then she wanted to be with Ash.
Gosh.
She allowed him to catch her.
Which we would think is hilarious is how many Pokemon fall in love with Ash.
But I love how later on she gets this attitude. She comes really like, when she and the emo Pokemon.
Yeah, Emon, I think.
Yes. And she just looked at her like, which?
You not doing
that? Attitude. Yeah. They had a little battle, and she just like takes her little ivy vines out and whips them. Yes, I like her.
Yeah,
I really do like her. And yes, we do like Tepig because he's just so stoic and he wants to be the best. And we saw his evolved versions. We saw one that the next one actually has on the wrestling leotard. Yes, we know they're not panties, but I keep calling them little panties. We know they're wrestling briefs. And then he has on, when he evolves, the wrestling leotard. We're guessing that in his final evolution, he is wearing a luchadora mask. Sylvian, let us know if we're right or not. So yes, we like Tepig and we like Snively.
Right.
And
Oh yeah, Ashwat!
oh, he's so cute.
Right, he always wants to fight until it's too big, then he lets someone else. And then he has his little shell, which is his sword and his shield and stuff. So there's still
and he never wants to stop. He never wants to give up. He always wants to be better.
He's like
and
Ash.
Just like Psyduck and what was Brock's Pokemon kept
hitting them in the butt.
Yeah.
So it was the Grogunk.
Yes, just like those two. He pops out without being there. It's like, what are you doing out here?
Asha! Right.
And he always wants to get stronger and be stronger. And one thing that was good about this particular season is seeing Ashura grow. We never seen a Pokemon who closed his eyes and was afraid to open his eyes to use his
water attack. Yeah.
Yes. And so that was a nice episode where we saw Ash being Ash, help him to, to teach him and train him to grow and to open his eyes to do it. That was a really great episode.
Right.
And that was nice.
It was like your Rocky episode, training.
And you like Emo too, except for when she's being shady in the beginning, using her little feminine wily.
Yeah,
to get all the apples.
Yes. Yeah, every time she goes the appeal, and then all the male Pokemon does whatever she said, but it doesn't work on the female.
Right.
So you start seeing which Pokemon are male and female after being ambiguous for all these seasons. They're actually starting to let you know who's male and who's female.
Right.
When we actually got to learn a while ago that Pikachu is male, so we actually got confirmation now because we really didn't know till
I
then.
kept saying she for a long time. And then Askew is cute.
Yeah, Askew blew himself up doing the
little
fire
dragon
attack. And he blows himself up.
So you've seen abundance of generic Pokemon, but these that the heroes have do stand out. And it might have been on purpose. Hey, we'll make a bunch of generic ones, but we'll make sure the ones that they get actually stand out, and they do. But all the others, there's no hope for them.
Yes. So now I think it's time we get into the actual meat of the what's wrong with this season.
Well, before Team Rocket, save the best for last. There's one episode in particular that we want to point out.
Oh, yes.
And that's the one where they were battling the ghosts for their lives.
Yes. There was an episode where they were actually tricked into going to a mansion during a storm. And they were staying there to stay
Not
dry.
only Ash, Iris, and Silent, but also
Team Rocket. Team Rocket was going to use the place as a new base for their other boss, I guess. And they're actually working with the Lampwick Pokemons to scare people off. And they said, oh, okay, the twerps are here. Scare them away and take Pikachu. It was pretty simple. And then they actually point out multiple times, it's like, hey, you look kind of tired. He said, well, we've been working for like 3 days straight, no sleep, so we got to rest after this. But as it went on, they started getting more and more tired. They looked out of breath. They looked sick.
They had just
bags
gray all around their eyes.
They weren't doing much.
Sallow looking,
yeah, and they said, it's only been like a day. How are you this tired? And then they explained with the Pokemon, they finally got information on the Pokemon that it was actually... there's no way to put it. They were killing people.
They were draining the life force.
Yeah, they were draining the life force till there was nothing left, and then they would take them to the ghost world, and they take the next person. Like, is this a horror movie now?
It's like, what the heck are you doing this season?
Yeah,
that was so pretty dark.
That was the darkest episode we've seen that's like have aired, because they even attempted to try to play it off as a joke. The only thing that was funny in this episode was Cilas getting scared. He said, "What?" That was like the only funny part. But with Team Ryan, they tried to do their motto, and they were like really sick. They were trying to play it off as a joke, but it wasn't coming off as funny because they were like struggling to get through it. They didn't have any emotion. They were just kind of
understood that they were going to die. So
yeah,
none of it that was funny.
Yeah, and at the very least, Ash believed when they said they weren't playing.
Right, and the best part about that episode is when Ash reached out to help Jessie. And James reached out to help Silent. That was the best part of the episode.
Yeah.
Everything else was like, stop this episode.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go. Let's move on. You need to condemn this building and tear it down.
Right.
Because it is condemned. I forgot. They make it appear like it's a nice, beautiful mansion, and it's run down and abandoned. So they need to literally, the people in this stupid Unova region need to tear down this building. They know it exists because no one was around there.
Yeah.
Notice that there was nobody around there. Like you said, they all got tricked into going in, but there was nobody in the area.
Right.
So they know it's there, but they leave it. Tear the sucker down.
Right. It's like, what are you doing? Oh, gosh.
And there were other episodes that stuck out as well, but that one really was just dark.
It felt like a horror movie, an actual horror movie, not like parodying a horror movie, not a Scooby-Doo horror movie, like literally a scary movie, and you almost were afraid that Team Rocket wasn't going to make it.
Right.
Even with them being changed, there was like a point there, like, are they going to take them out? Are they going to take Ash or somebody out? Because they were not playing around with these Pokemon.
Right. Now, before we get to Team Rocket, one more thing I want to mention is how we saw Pikachu display a couple of new moves.
Yes, he now has this little, what was it called? He does with his tail, and his
like
electric ball.
Right.
His electric ball, and he can hit it and swat it at his opponents. I forgot what the move was called, though. But that's a new move he acquired this season with Iron Tail. Right. So now he's got a new one on his roster.
And this season, you didn't hear him tell Pikachu, whatever the move is, when he goes from side to side, side to side.
Yeah. What is it?
Dodge.
Something quick attack.
Yeah, he didn't tell him quick attack this season, which is weird. There were some moves that they had learned in previous seasons that Ash did not tell Pikachu to use.
Yeah.
He kept talking about that new one in Iron Tail, and that pretty much was it. And it was like, we know Pikachu has more moves. Why are you not allowing them to be used?
Right.
It was
kind of weird.
So, we saw Ash do some battles. Not many as we had hoped.
And he didn't get to a league yet. They went to some other competition, and then that was pretty much it. When he got to the end of the season, a little mini competition, and then I guess season 15, he's going to have his main league competition, which is going to be the end of this series.
So the one episode that had some humor in it with Team Rocket being the jerks they are in this season is when they were supposed to have a real Pokemon fishing competition, and they set up a fake one before the real one happened and got the real one canceled.
Right. And, they're just going to capture Pokemon for us. Because now these people are too lazy to even catch their own Pokemon. So they're going to trick these people into getting it for them, and they take the balls and they're going to go away. It's like, okay, you're just cutting straight to the chase, I guess. They're not even really doing that much anymore with their disguises. But it was funny seeing them catch the fish, and then they caught an octopus that fell in love with Ash for some reason. It's like, why are these Pokemon crushing on Ash?
And then when they got caught, they were back to their bumbling selves, like they didn't know what to say or do, and they just screw it. Yes, this is who we are, and blah, blah, blah. So now, let's get to the worst thing about this season, and then quickly to the two movies.
Yes. Do we have to talk about Team Rocket being just asses this season?
This was not Team Rocket.
Why did you change them? Why did you change them?
It wasn't as big of a shock as it would have been because we were warned repeatedly several times by Sylveon and Phoenix, so we were not shocked as we would have been if they hadn't told us. We probably would have thrown a hissy fit and stomped the floor and jumped up and down and but
throwing the TV out the window.
Right, but because we had warning, we knew it was coming, but we didn't expect it should be them to be this crappy.
At first, in the beginning, okay, they're more serious. We got that. But what was really off is that they did nothing. They, first few episodes, they had their new black outfits on, which they agreed never to wear, but I guess now they do. They had an all-new motto, which was the actual Team Rocket motto. They weren't making jokes. They weren't...
And they were more like Hunter J,
yeah. And they weren't really being fun. They weren't making the jokes and the comments to each other. They were just really being serious.
And whom they claimed they would never be like.
Yeah, which was
being like Hunter J.
Right. They we're getting missions from Giovanni and their other new boss, who they were really actually listening to a lot this season.
But he used them. He said he told the woman that he was with that they were going to use them till they were finished, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah,
and they went to another jerk to be used by them.
Right, and I don't know. It's just that when you
and they were cruel to Pokemon.
Yes, they were just really mean. And at first we thought, okay, we heard people say they didn't like they were mean this scene. We didn't know what the extent was. We thought they were just, not funny because they don't make jokes. They don't badmouth each other. All their dialogue is pretty straightforward and serious. They even lose their inflections. They don't do anything like Team Rocket would usually do. They're just like, okay, we need to catch the Pokemon. We need to do this for the boss. They're in black outfits all the time. They're in basic disguises. And they're constantly doing these secret agent missions now.
It just didn't work. And the worst part, for me, is when they were going to cave in the cave.
Yeah.
To kill off Iris and
Ash and Silent.
And I was like, done.
And oh yes, I remember Mama said, you know what, this version of Team Rocket could go straight to heck. And then it's funny because before I called them the Team Rocket from heck.
I said hell.
Yeah, okay, they're the Team Rocket from hell because they are just the most biggest bunch of a-holes ever in this show. Why would you go from wholesome to complete opposite? I was okay with them, okay, make them a little more serious, hey, make them more of a challenge to beat. I was okay with that. That would make sense for being stronger in development. But did you have to make them just complete jerks the whole time? Because not one time were we laughing at anything they did.
You enjoy them as wannabe villains. But as villains, it doesn't work. It does not work for the show. And that whole element of the Team Rocket and Ash dynamic is gone. And as you mentioned, for 3/4 of the episodes, they weren't even in the series.
Yeah, multiple ones. There were 7 episodes at a time to be out of it. And the only time they show them, oh, we need to do this. Oh, the boss has called us. And they'd be doing all the secret mission crap.
And then suddenly they were astute at doing everything, including avoiding detection and getting through security and all these other things. Like, when did this happen?
Yeah, and it was all of a sudden, now they're master thieves. They be falling over themselves all the time and talking crap about each other and say, oh, I want to take over, and trip the alarms and blow stuff up. And they don't blast off anymore.
No.
They
have jetpacks like Jimmy Neutron.
Right, it's like, okay, we're getting defeated, let's leave, and then that's it.
So, this was the worst part of this season for us. There are some other things we didn't mention, like some new trainers that they met.
And then you have the movies.
Right, which we're going to get to now. And this was the first time we were glad that Team Rocket didn't have any part really in the movie, because if they were anything like the characters were for season 14, we didn't want to see them.
Right.
And that was a first. So let's get to Black and White.
Yes. Now this one was actually the first and probably last dual movie where you had two Pokemon. Which was
actually a great idea.
Right. And they actually had 2 Pokemon, one black, one white. One was supposed to represent ideals, the other represent truth. Mm-hmm. And this one had a more indigenous theme to it. With
indigenous?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And this one actually had 2 slightly different outcomes. Majority of the movies were the same, same lines, same characters, same events. The difference was which Pokemon Ash would join with that would help him. Would it be the one that represent the ideals or the one that represent truth? And they actually kind of show both versions. What if the man that found them were going to be voiced by J. Michael Tatum, Tenya?
And I figured it out because that sounds like Tenya, because that's what we call him all the time. And Rascal said, no, because the time I said, but remember, this is before he became the huge star that he's become. And I think that's him. If it's not, then it's Ian Sinclair. But I'm almost positive that's J. Michael Tatum. And woo! I got it.
Yes, that was him. That was a really great part of it. And he also had this Pokemon with Victini. Yeah, Victini. It was a Pokemon that gave people and Pokemon powers temporarily. They would get super strength or speed or something. Ash became like Spider-Man for a minute. No wonder she picked him as Spider-Man.
Right.
And I think that's why part of why the guy wanted to get its power, because it could give people power like that, whether temporary or long term. And you got the backstory of why it was there. It was sort of like this sacred Pokemon to them that would be, literally in the sense of the word, would be giving victory to the person or to the Pokemon. And they thought they were going to use it to take down a barrier that's been over part of the land, because it couldn't leave because of it, because of the king that had it before him. And in here was more like getting land back that was been sectioned off.
That they should be living on that land.
Right. And it was like two different tribes, and they had one in the desert and one in the ice. And like, so you got to see two different openings and two different outcomes of Ash choosing one of these Pokemon.
And the Pokemon each being the focus of the movie.
Right.
That's why he had black
and white. Right. So you had to see what happened if he chose ideals and when he chose truth.
Right.
But the thing that was really interesting is that no matter which one Ash had chosen, his ideals was truth, and the truth was his ideals, being that he wants to help Victini, he wants to help Pokemon, he wants to help people, he wants to be the best. And both Pokemon in both versions agree to help him. So Ash really didn't have like a dark side or anything like, oh, well, it's gonna latch onto this, it latches onto that. It really was. It was showing that neither Ash nor the man were good or evil. Well, neither were evil. I should say that neither were evil. They just both had these ideals they believed to be the truth, and depending on which the Pokemon follow, that was what they believed to be the good thing. And so he learns that, this wasn't the right way, because Ash almost died for like the third or fourth time in the show. It's like, why do you keep doing this? And of course we have this thing where he bonds with another Pokemon, which you love seeing. And of course Ash does everything he can to protect, even men his own life. And it was actually a pretty interesting film to have, like two different outcomes with two different Pokemons.
Right.
So you had two movies in one season.
And yes, we did watch both of them, and it was interesting to see the subtle changes. One of them was the music. In the first one, where I don't remember which one was Zekrom. Was he the white or the black one? But the black one was the one who helped, whose power was used to try to get the land back. In that movie, it was like epic music and big and fantastic. And then when you went to the second movie, White, where the other Pokemon was the one who was used to try to get the land back, it was the sappy, sentimental. It didn't work. And I mean, there are movies where having that type of music works, but in this movie it did not work. So the music was better in the first one, where it was adventurous and epic. And then you had where the character went to, where did he go to first? Did he go to the desert, or did he go to the Antarctic, which is what I'm just going to call it? And that was switched.
Right.
And then you had a few little different reactions between the people, depending on what happened. And whom was met first in the couple. But it still was a brilliant idea. I do love that this happened with the movies, and you got to see two movies for one, and you got to see the differences, and you could see that, as you mentioned, no matter which was, whether it's truth or ideals, Ash had the same heart.
Right. So yeah, this was a pretty off season. There were some good things in it that we did find. Some things we actually did enjoy, whether they were changes or improvements. Some things Zorak from the last season, right?
Yes, appeared.
Right. Yeah, that was actually a cool thing.
What really sucked is
it wasn't the same one.
Ash had been mind swiped. So suddenly he was like, "Oh, what are you?"
Yeah, it's like
you rebooted it, and now you mind swiped him where he didn't even know Pokemon that he had known before. He didn't know him now. So he had no idea what the Pokemon was, and he used the Pokédex. You're like, "What are you doing?" You met.
Alright. Especially when he met like another guy that was like just like Paul, was Trip, who was just a blonde version of Paul, and he kinda had the same thing with, I'm better, it's about strength, it's like we gotta go through this again. So that on top of that.
Yeah, so they mind swiped him, rebooted it, and so far we're not pleased. And we are going into season 15 now. So we're hoping that some of them will get a little better. We know that really the big changes won't happen until we get to XYZ.
Right.
But we're hoping still there'll be some alleviation from the torture in season 15. But we'll let you guys know.
Yes. So, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and Mortal Paws videos.
And be sure to let us know what you thought of this season. Really, really what you thought. If you thought we were too hard on it, let us know. If you thought that we weren't hard enough, let us know. Let us know really what you thought about season 14 in the comments below.
Right. So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Oscar Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.
And reporters sitting flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Met her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket. Give it to you later on in the form of a locket. People in the back for the people in the front.